The whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendon already said he could make it.
Don't dig this hole. Phil, credit to the guy, he always manages to do well way out, but he is a shocking person on that. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-bit.
Nah, my life from Rashad Mendon.
Right, you go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
We're heading into week 4 of the LOC season, and you know what that means. It's our first Wembley edition of the LOC Report, and LOC Report coming to you today not from LOC headquarters, but from Gridiron Gang's 2015 headquarters, no less, as I have now migrated up to Surrey, and I am joined with a former university alum of Plymouth who recently graduated, Coach Phil Merritt of the Tuckfards. How's it going, Coach?
I'm good, and I'm back close to headquarters. It's all changed, isn't it, mate?
Yeah.
I'm a lot better than last week, whereas indescribably depressed.
Yes, and it was another odd week in the NFL as well as the LOC, and the new hashtag Cheers Roger is now available to use at your pleasure for whatever puppet strings he decides to pull out next. But we won't delay, and we'll get straight into his doings here with a little bit of league news. So, as always, right off the top, we're going to start with some injury news. So, let's take a look. Eddie Lacy, fully recovered from that ankle injury now. He played reduced snaps on Monday night, but he will be back to his usual role this week.
Huh? He had a good game, didn't he?
Yeah, he had a decent game for running on 13 touches and half an ankle, so I can't complain. Deshaun Jackson has yet to practice. Obviously, after tweaking that hamstring on week 1, it was always going to be a multi-week injury. Hasn't practiced yet, so would not expect him to suit up this Sunday. Charles Johnson took a big hit to the ribs on Sunday as well. Apparently, he also has not practiced, and he's looking at this point pretty doubtful for Sunday. Sammy Watkins strained his calf in Buffalo's win over the Miami. Well, I say win; it was more of a beatdown on the Miami Dolphins on Sunday. He is also not looking good for Sunday. Brandon Cooks as well. What's up with Brandon Cooks? He has an ankle ailment, but I think he'll be okay. He's been practicing, so he should be good to go for Sunday. What else is bubbling about? LaShawn McCoy probably isn't going to suit up this weekend. We know he's been dealing with that hamstring ailment all season long. It's kind of catching up to him from what it sounds like, so he's going to have probably at least 1 week off. Drew Brees, limited practice. Once again, it's still kind of up in the air whether or not he'll be back this Sunday. Keep an eye on the next couple of days. If I had to guess, I don't think he will be out there, but he certainly could be. Devontae Adams also has an ankle ailment that I think he tweaked on the kickoff of the game on Monday. I've heard he's not looking good for Sunday either. Lots and lots of injuries this week.
It was a bloodbath, wasn't it? It was an absolute bloodbath again this week.
Yeah, it was another tough one.
Aren't you forgetting someone as well? Like Big Ben.
I haven't got to it yet.
Oh, right, sorry.
Jeez. Chris Ivory, limited participant all of last week. He's been struggling with a variety of lower body ailments. He was active for the game, but didn't play a single snap. I mean, he's going to be active again, I would think, but, you know, he might not get the full workload. We really don't know how healthy he is. Julio Jones, another player who's been dealing with lower body ailments all season long, but I don't think there's any question that he'll be out there on Sunday. Julius Thomas yet to return practicing as well. His timeline, I believe, was originally around 4 to 6 weeks. well, I think he's been limited actually, but he's still not been cleared for game action, so wouldn't expect to see him out there this weekend. Tevin Coleman as well, with Devontae Freeman showing really good on Sunday, which we'll get to in a bit. They're probably not going to rush him back from his rib injury, so I would expect him not to play as well on Sunday. Next on the hospital bed, we have Andrew Luck, who's I think he's had something to do with his throwing shoulder. It's just some soreness, nothing that's going to keep him out. Jonathan Stewart, he's been dealing with lower leg ailments all season long as well. Not practiced as of yet, but likely just a rest day for the veteran running back. Peyton Manning has apparently not been practicing as well, but I wouldn't read into that. He's, again, another 39-year-old player who's just needing some maintenance days. Jeff Seals, Alshon Jeffrey did not suit up again last week. He's still recovering from that hamstring ailment that was linked to his calf ailment. I think he's going to be out there this Sunday, so he should be good to go. Jordan Cameron, he's been dealing with a groin injury. He's been limited. He should be back. Jeez, there are a lot of injuries. Even a kicker's been injured. Dan Carpenter, he has a knee issue, but he's one of the most injury-prone kickers in the league, if that's a thing. He'll probably be fine. We keep going. Jason Witten had 2 sprained ankles and a sprained knee last week. Pretty much practiced in full regardless and played the game. The exact same should happen this week. Victor Cruz. Victor Cruz looked like he was going to make his season debut this week after suffering the patella tendon injury last year and having that calf week in the preseason. But he apparently retweaked that calf during practice this week and he will not play on Sunday. Alan Hearns, he's been dealing with lower body ailments as well. Limited participant, but he should be good to go for Sunday. Before we move on, for Jeff Seals as well. No, not Jeff Seals. Who was it? Was it Dream Team? Dream Team. After this week, they will be getting Martavis Bryant back from suspension. A four-game suspension for drug abuse. He will be back soon, which is good for them as their receiver core has taken a few hits over the last couple of weeks. Probably the biggest one of this week, or one of the biggest, Ben Roethlisberger went down with a sprained MCL and bone bruise. He will be out for 4 to 6 weeks. Randall Cobb continuing to recover from that shoulder sprain, but he's in no doubt for this week. Crockett Gilmore, he suffered a calf injury in Sunday's game, sat out the entire fourth quarter, I think it was, maybe even the whole second half. He's already been ruled out for the Thursday night game, but he should be back soon. Devontae Freeman was a limited participant in practice with a toe injury, but I would expect him to be out there on Sunday, and they really need him too. John Brown, also a limited participant with a shoulder injury, but he should be fine. Nearly there.
Oh, Jesus.
Vernon Davis has had a knee injury, I believe. Has not participated in practice. It was a knee strain in the Arizona game. But I haven't seen anything serious about this, so I would still anticipate him suiting up, but I would check it. Percy Harvin hasn't practiced as well. I think with the hip injury that he's had for a long time, probably just rest and maintenance for him.
Yeah,
that's exactly right. Cool. Travis Benjamin also limited in practice with a rib injury, but he should be good to go as well. Finally, we're nearly there. Arian Foster, very, very close to a return. Limited participant again this week. He's going to be a game time decision on Sunday. So from what I've heard, it's a 50-50 split whether he suits up or not. Andre Ellington also should be back from his PCL ailment that's cost him the last few weeks. He was limited, but he should be out there to some degree. And that is it. So congratulations if you are still alive after another murderous week in the LSE. Any comments? What was the biggest injury for you?
Well, I think you heard it from before. It was pretty much Big Ben for Pat. He's
Yep.
He's gone he is a big part of that team.
Yep.
And the fact he's gone, and we'll see who Pat's got as a replacement.
Yep.
But
We'll
he's going to lose potentially a lot of points. It's good for. I'd argue it's good for Charlie though with Le'Veon. It's gonna.
Yeah, they're only going to run him into the ground more, right? I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Lean on him while he's healthy. Absolutely. If he can remain, if anyone can remain healthy.
Yeah.
Half the league is in hospital right now.
We'll be starting the likes of Chuck Handerick, West, and before you know it. But anyway, let's not dwell on that. Let's go into the transactions. And we had our first trade of the season this week. First trade of the season coming in on Tuesday. Gridiron Gang traded tight end Crockett Gilmore to Pakistan for wide receiver Steve Johnson. Made sense for both sides. Pakistan needed another option at tight end, and the Gridiron Gang could have done with could do with a bit more receiver depth. There was also a trade back clause here. If Crockett Gilmore's calf injury turns out to be a multi-week injury, the trade will be reversed at Coach Allen's discretion. Reaction to this trade?
It's an interesting little trade. It's like one of these classic early Gridiron Gang trades where they take a gamble, they bring in a player, and they sort of trade away. Sort of a player has potential, but he doesn't think he's got the value like Rocket has been.
Yeah.
And usually, it's fair to say they haven't quite gone in your favour, i.e. Jamal Charles. But this one could work. I mean, Steve.
That was different though. That was just a lost season, so I was trading away for picks, not.
Absolutely, but Steve Johnson, he could provide you some value there.
Definitely.
Keenan Allen isn't the most effective and consistent number one wide receiver, and he could steal a few points along the road.
Absolutely. I think the return of Antonio Gates maybe hinders Steve Johnson's value a little bit, but who knows? He's a 35-year-old tight end, and San Diego like to spread the ball around. So we shall see. Anyway, so lots of transactions to get through, which is unsurprising with the amount of injuries. There was also a lot of really disappointing, throughout the season so far, there's been some really disappointing players, and we saw quite a few of them drop this week. So we'll try and do this a little bang. I'll read it out. You give some instant reaction. I might chime in, and then we'll go on to the next one. Okay. So first off here, Tom's Tyrants added Ted Ginn and dropped Andre Johnson. You're all too familiar with Andre Johnson.
Absolutely. Andre Johnson, I've had him for a season and a couple of games. Was not good last year when he was at the Texans. I can't remember what it was, like a fourth or fifth. I drafted him, and I thought, in the Colts offense, he'll be very, very good. And the first two games went by, and the Colts got destroyed. And I think he's been a little bit thrown under the bus. The fact that the two sort of youngsters, Moncrief and Dorsett, have actually taken his place. Mm-hmm. But he hasn't been obviously the value that I picked him. So I dropped him last week because I could see his contribution going south, and sort of justified now in a way that Tom's decided to let him go.
Mm-hmm. Very possible he's on his third team in as little as 2 weeks come the waiver tomorrow. Next one, Ford Flyers added Rashard Matthews and dropped Devin Funchess. Pakistan added Andy Dalton and dropped Roddy White. So obviously Andy Dalton will come in and start for Pakistan.
It's a sad day when you see Roddy White being dropped on the waivers. It's sad.
Yeah.
Being fancy, it's almost like the end of an era this season. You got Andre Johnson going, Roddy White going.
Yeah, exactly. All these, we're going to get it with the quarterbacks not long as well. I mean, a lot of the great quarterbacks who've been around for a long time are going to be retiring over the next few years. So it's, as you say, it's kind of the same with the receiver. It's kind of about his age and Leonard Hankerson's kind of emergence and Julio Jones' dominance, I guess, as well. Yeah, he was definitely a valuable fantasy asset to a lot of teams in the NFC over the years, so he will be missed. Our next one here, the Tuckfards added Thomas Rawls and dropped Dexter McCluster. I guess you could do a little one-worder about that. Rawls had a 100-yard day with Marshall Lynch not playing much of the game on Sunday. So
It's
smart ad.
it's pretty much a handcuff
Yep.
and like he's not going to be starting, so it's just extra depth.
Badenes added Andre Williams and dropped Vincent Jackson. This is another receiver who, to me, still has some value. What do you think?
I'd agree. Yeah, I mean, he's had a 1.1 double-digit score this year. It's not the greatest offense, and Jamius is still developing. But yeah, I agree with you here.
Yeah, I mean, so Vincent Jackson, especially with Austin Seferian-Jenkins now injured, is the de facto second option in that passing offense. So, he's got a certain amount of work. He's a safe option. I can't. So who else has Badena has got a receiver that might explain more why they were able to part ways? So Jeremy Macklin, Jordan Matthews, and Terrence Williams kind of right. They're not exactly stacked, but I guess he's kind of on par with Wright and Williams. I think fair to say. So
he's got running back issues as well.
Yeah, I don't think Andre Williams is the answer to that. He was on his roster earlier in the season. He got a touchdown last week, but it's a three-headed monster in New York on a team that's not really that good in the first place. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll see what happens there. The Dream Team added Kenny Britt and dropped Teddy Bridgewater. Teddy Bridgewater. He has not performed, I think it's fair to say. They're scrambling for receivers right now. ADLZ added Alan Hearns and dropped Matt Asiata. Tom's Tyrants added the Green Bay Packers defense and dropped Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Fudge Flies added Lance Dunbar and dropped Marcus Wheaton. This is a kind of interesting one.
Definitely.
Yeah, Lance Dunbar would be hyper valuable in a PPR league. He's been okay, I think you could say, for standard. He hasn't got a touchdown, but he's getting a lot of looks as the check down passing back option. I don't know if that's very sustainable, though. What do you think?
I think this is an interesting one. I can sort of see where Forge Flyers are coming from. With Whedon in, he's hit Dunbar certainly going to be a target. He could provide some value. Whether it's sustainable, that's another question. So yeah, Marcus Wheaton hasn't performed, so he's taking a chance. That team needs it.
Pakistan added the Vikings defense and dropped the Patriots defense. Obviously, Patriots are on a bye week.
Absolutely.
The Tuckfards added Eric Ebron and dropped Heath Miller. We won't go into that because I know you reversed it a bit later on. The Dream Team added Darrell Green Beckham and dropped Nelson Aguilar. We won't look at the guy he added too much as this was also changed, as we'll see a bit further up. But dropping Aguilar, what do you think about this?
I think slightly fair enough. I mean, he has 36 yards in 3 games, so not really a lot of value. But he sort of reminds me a little bit of like Devontae Parker. He's sort of being kept back. Maybe brought in so he could like come in further in the season. You get what I mean?
Yeah, he's definitely one of those guys that further down the season, no one would be surprised if he became maybe even as high as a wide receiver too. Probably a flex. So it's an interesting one for me. I mean, this team needs a receiver, but I don't know if I think he's worth holding on to personally.
That being said, he's got Green Beckham in, and he was sort of in a similar position, maybe not as talented, but he's getting some scores. So
sure.
although he's on a bye week this week.
Tom Sarrence added Graham Gano and dropped Mike Nugent. Ford Flyers added the Philadelphia Eagles defense and dropped the Cleveland Browns defense. Gridiron Gang added Tyrell Taylor and dropped Eddie Royal.
Royal.
Yeah, finally cut bait and accepted that Eddie Royal is not happening. The Tuckfards added Gary Barnage and dropped Eric Ebron. I liked the initial move of adding Eric Ebron. I did not like this reversal.
I also liked the earlier move and then saw his matchup in Seattle and then liked it less.
He's been vulnerable to tight ends so far this season.
Vulnerable, but I don't know. I don't see Eric as a big splash.
But Cleveland's tight end is winner, right?
Maybe he connected quite well with McCown, so we'll see.
You're aware they were playing the Raiders, who essentially don't play linebackers or safeties.
I
At least
am
that's what it looks like.
I am aware. But you know the Tuckfards are always willing to take some gambles, and well, who
There's
knows? Who knows?
gambles, and then there's picking up a guy called Gary Barnett, who plays for a team
I,
called
re-
Cleveland.
may I remind you of a guy called Mike Evans who was picked up last season, and stormed the league. And he was, Tuckfards like this. They like this. They like this play. They like pinning their hopes on a talented.
Are you seriously comparing Mike Evans to Gary Barnett?
No, but I'm saying it's sort of similar.
So you're comparing Mike Evans to Gary?
He's not at the end of the day. He might not start. Like Eric is a good play, but he might come next week. Who knows? Who knows? But like both players are a risk, and they neither of them would start this week anyway.
Unless Brandon Davis can't play.
Unless Venom Davis can't play, then we'll see.
All right then. The Dream Team added Leonard Hankson and dropped Darrell Green Beckham. I mean, yeah, he's the number 2 receiver in the offense, but I personally like Green Beckham more. Another one I liked more here before the reversal. I know he's on a bye, but I just think but is the Dream Team playing him this week?
Let's have a look.
Because I think Green Beckham is definitely a great hold. Hankson's never going to become. I think he's a wide receiver 4, and he'll give you some decent weeks, maybe.
Yeah. No, he's not playing. He's currently benched, and they put Dorset, Garçon, and Montgomery in front.
Sure. Okay. So that next move they added Ty Montgomery and dropped Kenny Britt. Finally here, Gridiron Gang added Derek Carr and dropped Tyrod Taylor. Obviously Derek Carr will be filling in for Tom Brady, who is on a bye week.
Absolutely.
What would you have done, Derek Carr or Tyrod Taylor?
I probably would have gone Taylor, but because bearing in mind this is Oakland we're talking about, but
yep, very true. But
very similar. Well, I think both very talented youngsters, definitely the future of the league, and why not take a gamble and go in for someone tried and tested, such as, well, I don't know. For instance, Ryan, like the next best QB is Blake Bortles and Ryan Fitzpatrick and Alex Smith. I think that just says that in a nutshell, really.
Yep, sums up quite nicely. Right, that wraps up the transactions there. So we'll get on to the week 2 recaps then. So we will start off with what was the game of the week, I guess. Iknan against the Dream Team. Going into this, Iknan were 2-0, and the Dream Team were 1-1 coming in with a 1-win streak. It was a close one, very close one. In fact, Iknan did forget to change out Arian Foster and start Giovanni Bernard, which would turn out to prove vital as they lost 109-106 on Monday night.
Yeah, that's a mistake by Coach Sherwood, and it's cost him, like you said, very close. I think this was the only good match of the week. I think pretty much every other one was settled by sort of like mid Sunday.
Yeah.
Really sort of good game, and it was really, really tight from the start. But I think by sort of Monday Night Football, it was pretty much it was pretty much Dream teams to lose.
Yeah, absolutely. Going down the scores, I mean, Iknan just having another solid week, another big pitch in from their kicker and defense, who've just been great so far, 35 points. 33 from Cam Newton too. There was some in between, but we know what Iknan are. They're a good team, and if they change their lineup, they're 3-0 right now. On the other side of the ball, Dream Team, they're still having the looks of, they're putting up nice scores, but they're doing it in difficult ways, and by that I mean each week it seems that they have like a couple of big performances and then a few guys that don't perform. Palmer got them 22, Greg Olsen got them 25,
he was awesome 20.
Yeah,
He was absolutely. I mean, me and Pat were watching that game, and it was just like he was so involved. Like he was vital in that win for Carolina, and
absolutely. I
especially
mean,
for
fair
Vic.
play to the dream team. It's definitely a model. Get some guys that can explode on a weekly basis, and just hope the other guys really don't screw up. So hey, they're 2-1. Who can complain? Uh,
Absolutely.
the next game we'll look at here. Let's go to ADRZ against the Detonators. Entering this game, ADRZ are 2-0, leading the division, and the Detonators were uh, what were they 1-1? Yep, coming off a win in week 2. But this one would not prove to be close. 153, which I think is a season high so far.
That's a record, isn't it, for the 12 league 12 team format?
Well, yeah,
Must be a
season
record.
high so far. So yeah, it's a fact though. Yep. And Benetton's got 92.
Yeah, disappointing week for the Bird Detonators. They had some performers, but they got some running back problems. Sproles was a nice sort of like filler in there, but Hill, not doing great. Terrence Williams obviously suffering from having no Romo. For ADRZ though, oh my God, that wide receiver. I mean,
That game was ridiculous.
I mean, they scored more than another team. Like 2 players scored more than a whole other team in the league this week. That's crazy. That's absolutely mental. That.
Yep, it's pretty incredible. Yeah, Andy Dalton red zone. They had a very nice week. Charles 26 scored 21, Green 34, and Smith 30. Just absolutely ridiculous. Um, Russell Wilson pitched in with 18 too, and
Yeah,
they just look like a solid team. I mean, I don't think they've dipped below. Oh no, sorry. The first game they were below 100, but they've looked pretty good all season long. On the other side of the ball, Bedenes, the last 2 weeks they kind of been struggling. 92s, it's an okay score, but the way they got there, it wasn't, as you say, it wasn't greatly pretty. They had a few great performances. Sproles got 15, which, yeah, I mean, how often is that going to happen this season? Macklin got 20 again. How often is that going to happen? Charles Clay got 14, which is good. And Manning
yeah.
got
Okay.
22. But outside of that, as you say, Hill, Matthews, Williams all got less than 5 points. Just bad day at the office. I still
Yeah,
think they're a good team, but they need to bounce back in a hurry, I think.
definitely. But they've got some, fair play to Berdanes. They've got some, glimpses on the bench. Kendall Wright performed well. Williams will come off the bench and maybe run for Buffalo. Mariota's looking good as a second sort of QB.
Mm-hmm.
So there's glimmers there, but like some work to do, we'll say, and
Yeah,
it didn't help that DeMarco was out.
no, did not. Our next game here, Foot Flyers, Ben SST's big storyline coming into this one. Both of these teams were obviously 0-2 entering week 3. Neither could ill afford to lose. We've seen teams make the playoffs at 0-2, and I think we've seen 1 or 2 teams make the playoffs at 0-3, but boy, it is an uphill climb. And the climb has got a lot harder for Bare Necessities as they fell to Ford Flyers 123-107.
How are they 0-3? I mean, it's just
It's mind-boggling.
It's,
Absolutely mind-boggling. 100 points in every game so far, and they've got 3 losses to show for it. It's just ridiculous.
yeah, it's just the mind boggles. As you said, bare necessities sort of been let down at running back here. They only scored 9 points compared to the 39 points of Forge Flyers, mainly down to Devonta Freeman, who
That's
I
just
sort
mental.
I sort of gift wrapped that to Chris there after my initial drop. They look strong other than that bare necessities, and third straight week where they've scored over 100 points and they've still lost. It's just crazy. Forge Flyers though, how they got that victory. I mean,
Yeah,
Brown,
I mean, it's
just
incredible.
ridiculous.
I mean, staying on Ben Necessity's side of the ball, this is exactly what we saw happened to Ford Flyers last season. They had a great first few weeks of the season, but just got outscored, and then it all fell apart. Well, I don't think that happens with Ben Necessities. It's these early season wins where you get the points on the board and you don't win that really kill you come the playoff stretch. I think it's fair to say. you know,
Can I make a claim here?
sure.
I'm going to say that Andrew Luck was now, in the benefit of hindsight, may have been a bit of a reach as number one quarterback, because he went before. Am I right in thinking he went before Rodgers?
He did.
He
Yeah.
did, and that is turning out to be sort of a bum move, because although Andrew Luck scored above 20 again, he's ranked 21st amongst quarterbacks, and he has looked terrible. I mean, he improved, but we were watching some of his plays on Red Zone, and some of his interceptions were just woeful, really bad.
Yeah, the Indy offense has definitely been in a slump so far. I mean, going into the season, personally on my draft board, I had Aaron Rodgers higher, but he got knocked down a peg when he lost Nelson. So a lot of people moved like above of him.
Yeah,
which you can certainly make the case for. He's just having a bad time right now. His O-line's not helping him out. So I think he improves as the season goes along. On Fudge Flyers side of the ball, I wouldn't get too used to seeing these 120-point performances from them. They had an absolutely fantastic week, but Devontae Freeman scoring 37, Blunt scoring 27. Am I going out on a limb saying that it wouldn't shock me if they didn't combine over the next 4 weeks for what they got in their games this week?
yeah, and I think another thing that's worth noting is that all of the sort of big high scorers in all of his teams have competition. Andre Blue is going to lose out on some touches when Arian gets back.
It's a good observation. Yeah.
Matthews when DeMarco comes back. Blount has was it Lewis?
Yeah,
running back. Yeah, and then Freeman when Tevin Coleman comes back. So that that there's some questionable like sustainability on the Forge.
I mean, yeah, and you've got guys like CJ Anderson who are sliding into kind of a committee. Guys like Ronnie Hillman, and then you've got John Brown, who, well, Larry Fitzgerald has just emerged as the number one, re-emerged, I should say, as the number one receiver there, so that hurts him. And yeah, it's a very good point. And Jimmy Graham as well, to be fair, they're just not getting him the ball a lot. So I think they're gonna have a tough season. Do they have some nice weeks? I think absolutely they proved they could. But yeah. We'll see how they do next week. Our next game here, the Tuckfards against Jeff Seals. Storylines going into this game. Tuckfards were 0-2, while Jeff Seals were 1-1, coming off their first win of the season. But they wouldn't get another one because the Tuckfards just went nuclear, 149 to 110.
And I mean, okay, so we were in very unfamiliar territory for the Tuckfards. Usually we have a win under the belt, so must win. And the fact we lost to Pat, the loss to Pat hurt. I'm not gonna lie. Day morning was I wasn't very talkative, so it was very nice to sort of bounce back, and we needed that sort of big performance, and it was good to get it.
Yeah, definitely. And you had a great week. I mean, starting right at the bottom there, your defense got 35 points. That's not happening. 15 points is a good day for a defense. So 35 is just incredible. Joseph Randall, 28. Again, let's be realistic. He's not having 28 games, but again, 15 on a weekly basis isn't out of the realm. Your receivers continued to struggle. Hilton actually had kind of a nice game, didn't get a touchdown, but got 94 receiving yards. Adrian Peterson, 24 points. You expect him to have these kind of games, and Ingram had 16 too. As an RB2, you'd expect him to have these kind of games. Now Ryan having a nice day too with 27 points. Just a good day at the office for your team, really.
Yeah, I'd agree. Allen Robinson, just on the point, he's going to be a little bit of a hit or miss sort of guy. Ty, as you said, had a nice game. Bit unfortunate of Heath that Roethlisberger went down. The Cardinals, well, that was just. I pretty much won the game at that point anyway. But when they two straight defensive plays went for interceptions and for a touchdown, which iced 16 points for me.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, incredible.
Good day.
Yeah. And on Jeff Seal's side of the ball, it was kind of the opposite. It was a pretty bad day at the office, really, until
Yeah.
Monday night when Aaron Rodgers put up 45 points. And again, I'll go back to the thing with Ben Acestes. Guys like Aaron Rodgers, they're going to have these 45-point kind of games a few times a season. And you really want to be winning the kind of games when you get that, because you know what I'm saying. Like, they couldn't in this game though. I mean, you think about it. Your starting quarterback gets 45 points. If everyone else on your team just averages, I don't know, 10, you're getting what, 120, 130 kind of. They got 110, so they weren't far off. Le'Veon Bell got 20. He's a really strong addition to this roster.
Absolutely.
Then you've got guys like Melvin Gordon, who I think as the season goes on, he'll get better. Kenny Stills, he's not a good option as a wide receiver too. Jordan Cameron, tight end, he's going to be hit or miss. But they've definitely got some potential. Julian Edelman's been really good for them so far, but I'd say what he did this week is probably more akin to what he'll be like on a weekly basis.
Yeah.
And Amari Cooper had another nice day too. They're a good team, but I don't know if they're gonna take the next step.
No, I agree. I mean, Rodgers went absolutely nuclear on Monday, but not a lot. Slim pickings, I'd probably say, for Jeff Seals. Around sort of like the two main go guys.
A nice game here. The Rome Sexuals against Pakistan. Storylines in this one: both teams 1-1. Going into last week, Rome Sexuals had a loss in week 2. Pakistan had a win in week 2 against none other than yourself. But they would not make it 2 in a row. They fell 114 to 91.
Yeah, it was. Well, I think Pat was very. I mean, I was sitting next to Pat on Sunday when he was sort of in the mid-30s, and he wasn't happy. But I think he put together actually a nice week, bearing in mind he did have. He was a bit unlucky. Very much injury prone this week with Roethlisberger and Lynch going, 2 big players, and that sort of ruined his week, like at the start of his week. But then, Cobb and Allen just sort of going nuclear, wide receiver, sort of helped him out. But the Roman Sexuals, have to say, I was questionable, very, very questionable after their draft, but that has proved me wrong. They're a very strong team.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a good team. They haven't looked, in my opinion, quite as strong as they were in that week 1 performance. Obviously, they lost Romos. They started Flacco. He actually had a nice day, but I don't know how often you're going to get that. He's a bit inconsistent. The offense isn't great. At Forte, again, I mean, Cutler's out. They're just a bad team. He's going to get his work. He's going to get his points, but maybe his upside is a little more capped than it has been in previous years. Carlos Hyde, he's kind of in a similar situation to Forte. Terrible team. If they're going to be down like they were against Arizona and in the week previous against Pittsburgh, he's not going to be able to do a lot of damage. But with the emergence of Larry Fitzgerald and Odell Beckham Jr. being a number 1 receiver, that definitely solidifies this team. A great tight end in Travis Kelce too. And they've got some options for the flex, so it's a really good team, definitely. On the other side of the ball, I think when you first look at it, the 91 points, it looks initially a lot better than what the team did. But then when you factor in that Roethlisberger got injured and Lynch got injured too, then it makes you kind of think, actually, you know what, 92 with 2 less players actually isn't that bad. The main worries I have here are really outside of the 2 receivers and Lynch and the quarterback. Morris, with Matt Jones's emergence, I do not know what's happening with that Washington backfield right now. Kyle Rudolph, not a good option at tight end. Isaiah Crowell, despite being the starter, just is not doing too well to begin with. I still think Pakistan are a really good team, but they have more the makings of this consistent 90 to 100 points every week, as opposed to a higher upside team.
Yeah, I think the next few weeks are important for Pat. This is the next few weeks will like define his season. So he's got to perform, and he's got to make these like important coaching decisions now, make it work.
Sure. Our last game of last week here, which we picked as the game of the week in the preview. Once for the third week in a row, the game of the week we picked did not turn out to be the game of the week, and in fact was probably one of the worst.
Yeah.
Storylines going into this one: Gridiron Gang were 1-1, as were Tom's Tyrants. They've kind of had mirror seasons actually. A great week one, not great week 2, and injuries and what have you. But Gridiron Gang won this one. They got it low score at 86-64.
Yeah, I think the interesting thing about this game was that the overall score was less than the amount that was scored by ADRZ, which sums up pretty much this game in a nutshell. I think you definitely needed a win after I think week 2 for Gridiron Gang was pretty much a deflator. You had some high hopes and it sort of didn't go down. And sort of same for Tom's. He win last week? Did Tom's win?
No, we both lost in week 2.
You both lost. So this was like sort of a big game for both of you, like confidence wise. And again, both teams really not a lot of confidence at the moment, and especially after the scoring. I think, not a lot there, and especially worrying times for our league champion. The fact that it's pretty much a one-man team, and the fact that Julio Jones getting all the points. And
yeah, I mean, you look on both sides of the ball. Both teams here have players that are injured, and then players that just aren't getting going. We'll stick with Tom's Tyrants, as you were saying. First with the injuries, so Chris Ivory, obviously.
Big play.
Big injured. Well, he was injured entering the game, and active but didn't play. I mean, there's nothing you can do about that as a coach. The guy's active. You assume he's going to get work, and he's just there on the sideline. It doesn't happen that often. And then you look down their bench. They've got Des Bryant. They're without Julius Thomas. They're without Tevin Coleman. Injuries are piling up here. And then you've got players like Sam Bradford, Doug Martin. They're just not really getting going. Their offenses aren't quite utilizing them properly. And then you've got the same problems on the other side of the ball with Gridiron Gang, where you've got guys like Lamar Miller, Golden Tate, who aren't really putting it together yet. And then you've got injuries to guys like Eddie Lacy and Deshaun Jackson. And it just kind of hurts. But, for the season long, I think these two teams will improve. While I don't know if they're title contenders, I think they're definitely better than what they've looked like over these past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think you're a bit unlucky, both of you, this season, like this week. Sorry, with the Chris Ivory situation. Tom's Tyrants also had Tyler Eifert, who had a touchdown disallowed.
He did.
I don't think you would have expected to have the Jets to have been that bad against Philly. So, some sort of like hard luck on both sort of teams. I think that sort of sums it up, really. But big win for you, though, Nate.
Yep, 2-1. I'm happy. Now going to the power rankings, I'll just run down the order and then you can say a bit about it if you want. So here we go. Iknan at the top again. Romosexuals at number 2 again. ADRZ slide up to number 3 from spot 5 of last week. Necessity's actually climbed a couple of spots too. They're at 4 now. The Dream Team climbing from 9 to 5. Pakistan dropping from 4 to 6. Jeff Seals pretty much holding pace. They're at 7. Detonators at 8. They dropped quite a bit. Tuckfards at 9. They bumped up a spot. Tom's Tyrants at 10. They dropped down a few. Gridiron Gang at 11, which was the same. And Fortifiers at 12, which was also the same.
Yeah, it's I think it's fairly accurate. Ignan definitely at the top. They're looking at the team to beat. Romosexuals second, I'd agree. Well, then again, ADRZ have had a monster 3 weeks. So I think they're definitely the front runners. Their necessities, I think 4th is good. If I look down and see who maybe could have been a bit higher or a bit lower, maybe Pakistan, maybe a little bit of a reach at the moment. Teams in trouble. I think because of injuries, probably could be a little bit lower. I'm gonna say the Tuckfards maybe a point, maybe position or two higher, looking better than the Bird Detonators at the moment. Not biased or anything, and maybe I think Gridiron Gang, not that bad, Certainly in a lot better position than other teams. And yeah, other than that, I think it's okay, really. Do you know as well that Tom has just submitted his story?
Yep.
Do you want to? Do you want to hear some of it?
No, it's fine. We usually do this on Wednesday, so I don't step on the toes of Tom's story. So
okay, absolutely. Well, but for anyone listening, check him out.
You can absolutely go read that. It's been posted now, and also check the league poll. The league poll this week is which last place team is most likely to turn it around? Ben SSC's Ford Flies or the Tuckfards? So you can go vote on that. And once again, no surprises as to who voted for the Tuckfards there, I imagine.
The guy who voted the Tuckfards, obvious genius right there. Obvious
Not
genius.
biased at all. So we'll get to our next week 4 matchups here, and we'll wrap up. Week 4 is obviously it's the Wembley game. So some of us are going to be enjoying the fancy ticker. Well, I say we're the only game on because it's the early kickoff. But hey, we'll be there. We'll be watching some of our fantasy players play. And the game of the week here is none other than the Corona Bowl 6 rematch. It's coming in week 4. The Dream Team take on Tom's Tyrants. The Dream Team on a 2-win streak are currently 2-1, sitting atop the Southampton division, while Tom's Tyrants 1-2 on a 2-game slide. I think they're in second or third now in the Southampton division as well. So a divisional matchup, Corona Bowl rematch. What more can you ask for? And the projected points in this one right now are very close. I think that's just because Tom Tyrants is doing some Belichickian roster management right now, hasn't got a kicker or a defense, and opting to hold 2 other skill players instead. So they're up 95-94 in the projections, but that'll climb. Lineup changes in this one, nothing on Tom's Tyrant's side. On the Dream Team side, Philip Dorsett comes in for Devontae Adams, and Ty Montgomery comes in for LaShawn McCoy. Yep, and Latavius Murray slides into RB2. Your thoughts for this game?
Oh, well, like you said, obvious game of the week. Really, really close currently. Tom's sort of playing his card close to his chest right now, as you said. I think this is a really, really close game. Certainly, there are some advantages that Tom have compared to Dream Team, and Dream Team has some advantages. I don't like the fact that he's put T.Y. Montgomery in, because I just don't see, if that game's a blowout, then I don't see Montgomery getting any points. Equally with Dorset, it's a bit of a gamble because it seems like Moncrief is the sort of the go-to wide receiver 2 in Indianapolis right now. So I'm not too sure on Dream Team's selection here, but certainly the 2 running backs are hot. The Murray's definitely hot. Dorset maybe not so much. Olsen's definitely hot as well. So yeah, he could get loads of points, but then again, there's definitely some downside on that team. And Tom's, who knows what he's going to put at K and D. But Julio will just carry on as he's going. Hopefully he'll get some points from Chris Ivory this time. On that, I'm not too sure where those points are going to come from, really. He's going to have to find some points there. But like I said, definitely close. Definitely a game of the week.
Yeah, I'd agree with most of your comments. Harking back to the Ty Montgomery and Philip Dorsett comments about questioning whether he could start them, I would agree for most other teams. But then you look at the options on his bench. The only guys really that he can start instead are Leonard Hankerson, D'Angelo Williams, and Fred Jackson. That's literally the only other options they have available this week.
Yeah.
So
slim pickings.
Absolutely. Who are you picking in this game?
I don't really know. I think Tom's going to bounce back, and I think they're going to take it. But it's going to be within 5 points this game.
I think I'll go with the Dream Team. We've seen the Dream Team bounce back nicely from that bad week 1. They've had 2 very good weeks on the trot. I know they've got issues with the receivers, but I still think they've got some good players. I would agree. It could be close. They've got some tough matchups. 4 sets. On a Thursday night game, playing against a Pittsburgh defense that it's not great. But you never know with a Thursday night game. Palmer, St. Louis is a tough defense. He's playing against them.
Yeah.
So, and on the other side of the ball, Tom Starnes, I said it in the power rankings. I just want to see this team get going before I'm ready to kind of. I still think it's a good team. I just want to see it, put it on paper before I'm willing to go back to it. Bradford hasn't got going. Ivory's injured. Martin really hasn't got going. Landry, he's been okay. But this is a tough matchup too. Eifert, I mean, I think he's a good tight end, but he's just not really done it the last 2 weeks. And Danny Woodhead, it's, no one would be surprised if he only put up 50 yards, and that's it. So I think they could definitely win, as you say, but I think the Dream Team are probably the safer bet here.
Yeah, this is going either way.
Our next game here is Ben Assisties versus the Detonators, which is the Corona Bowl 1 rematch, of course. Storylines to follow in this one. Ben Assisties obviously 0-3, still searching for that first win, while the Detonators are 2-1 in second place. This is the first divisional matchup week, in case you couldn't tell. And there's a Southampton division matchup here. Projections have this one going to be Detonators 111 to 98. Lineup changes in this one. On Ben Assisties' side of the ball, I believe they're unchanged, but that will change as Rob Gronkowski is on a bye, or at least you'd hope it would change. But Detonators, they don't appear to. They've made one move. Carlos Williams comes into the flex for Terrence Williams.
Yeah, that's all logical there. Bare necessities, though, I see sort of a big Gronk-sized hole in this team this week. He's been the big player. He hasn't currently got a tight end, so it'll be interesting to see where he goes with that. He needs Andrew Luck to sort of get going. Not had a good start to the season. He needs Jacksonville to sort of have a running game, which is not happening at this point. But although TJ Yeldon's he's a talented guy, just hasn't quite got it going. Stewart's injured. Sanders and Marshall, I like that pairing at wide receiver, and Dante Moncrief as well. Seahawk D and Tucker, that's good. In terms of bed destinators, again, a few injuries there at running back. DeMarco, will he play? Will he not play? Jeremy Hill, question marks continue over his position in Cincinnati. Again, I like the wide receiver. I like Matthews. I'm not totally sure on Macklin, though. Macklin did get a touchdown, which is unheard of because it's Kansas City.
First touchdown to a wide receiver since 2013. Right.
Jesus, that is mental when you think about that. So he could either explode or he could just be a Kansas City wide receiver again. Williams in for running back is logical because of McCoy's injury. But yeah, Brennan is sort of struggling, I think, here. It's safe to say. Both teams sort of struggling because of buys and injuries. Again, this is very close. Very, very close.
Who are you picking?
This is so tough, this one. I'm going to say bare necessities because they are overdue a win and they have, despite Gronk going out, superior players at this point of the season.
Yeah, I think I'll go. I'll go bare necessities too. Oh, this does have a feel of one of those. My team's been great the first 3 weeks, but then you get some buys and what have you, and it weakens the team. You have a bit of a down week, and then you lose a game that you would have won in the first 3 weeks, for example. I still think the time is right to play this Detonator side. They haven't looked great the last 2 weeks, despite going 1-1. But I think bare necessities can just about pull out of the bag, so I'll probably go with them too.
Yeah.
Next game here, Jeff Seals against Andy Dalton Red Zone. Storylines into this one, the Portsmouth division matchup. Jeff Seals are 1-2, while Andy Dalton Red Zone, they are the only 3-0 team, only undefeated team left standing. Projections in this one actually have Jeff Seals winning 133 to 125. Lineup changes in this one. Alshon Jeffrey comes back into the starting lineup for Julian Edelman, who is on a bye. Other than that, unchanged, I think. Andy Dalton Red Zone doesn't appear that they've. Oh no, they're starting Ronnie Hillman in the flex in favor of Torrey Smith.
Yeah, interesting one. Interesting one. This game. ADRZ, can they keep it going? They're certainly not going to get 70 points from their two starting wide receivers, but they're certainly hot at the moment, Smith and Green. Frank Gore finally got some points last game, and you can always rely on Charles. Russell Wilson, sort of average quarterback scoring at this point. He has the possibility he can explode. Depends how the game goes against Detroit. And then Jeff Seals, they got monster projections this week. Rogers is probably about right at 29 for against San Fran. The likelihood that it's going to be a blowout. Le'Veon and Gordon good. Jeffrey, we'll have to see about his injury. I think there's certainly potential here for Jeff Seals to pull off an upset. If they can get going. And if Amari Cooper has another good week, then, and as well as sort of like Holy Trinity, as you say, then they could pull off a big win. And they need it.
Yep. So you're going with Jeff Seals?
I'm going to go with Jeff Seals. Yeah. I don't know if you agree.
Let's look down here. Yeah, I mean, the matchups look right for Jeff Seals. If they, I mean, I'm not in love with Stills or Cameron. Those are two glaringly weak things. And Gordon, I think it's a good matchup. He hasn't scored a touchdown yet, but I think that could certainly be coming. So, but I can't go against ADRZ right now. They've looked great through 3 weeks, 200-plus point outings on the trot. Even though some of the matchups are hard, you got Wilson against Detroit, Charles against Cincinnati, Green against KC. Some of those are tough. But I think you go with the points when in doubt. But I think it could be close. I definitely
I think on second thoughts, I think I'd go ADRZ as well. Yeah, just looking again down the team. Yeah, definitely ADRZ.
Our next game here, a rematch of the James Milner Bowl of the year past. Pakistan versus Forge Flyers, the James Milner team themselves. Both of these teams 1-2, so a key Portsmouth division matchup here. Current projections have Forge Flyers winning 99-84. Lineup changes in this one. Forge Flyers are starting Rashad Matthews at wide receiver. John Brown is in the flex currently, and they have dropped the Garrett Blunt to the bench because he was on a bye. On Pakistan's side of the ball, they are now starting Andy Dalton in the wake of that Ben Roethlisberger injury. Other than that, they're unchanged yet to put in their defense, which will be the Vikings. Their projection actually bumps up to 92. Thoughts on this game?
Well, it's completely the opposite of the last game. Struggling for points, and I think in the scheme of things, it's a very important game for both teams. Both 1-2. If you go 1-3, you're really struggling for the season. So, really big game for both these two. I think coaching is going to. This is where coaching comes into it and picking the right players.
Absolutely.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see Freeman scoring as 34 points.
Not against Houston.
But that being said, I can't see Allen scoring that many points against Cleveland, even if it is Cleveland. So really really close game this. So I'm gonna go Pakistan just because I just don't think there's enough depth in for forward flyers and coach Leach. So I'm just gonna go Pat, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to go Pakistan too. We've seen Pakistan be ultra consistent through the first 3 weeks. Forward flyers have been anything but, I think it's fair to say. They didn't top 70 points until last week, where they pretty much doubled their first 2 week score. But I think they dropped back down to earth. While I agree, again, it could be close. As you say, I just think Pakistan has a little bit more firepower to just push them over the top. Our next game here. Yeah.
I was just going to quickly say, but you never know. Like Devonta Freeman could explode again. We could all be wrong.
He's not doing that against Houston, my friend.
And Graham could be throwing the ball. You never know, but
you don't
unlikely.
Get to play the Cowboys every week or whoever they were playing. Right, our next game here, the Tuckfards against Icnan. Storylines in this one. This is a Winchester divisional bout. Tuckfards 1-2, coming off their first one of the season, while Icnan 2-1, coming off their first loss of the season, which, as we said earlier, could have been avoided. Ultra close game here. You're projected to win the Tuckfards 105-104. Lineup changes in this one. On your side of the ball, you haven't changed anything yet. But Vernon Davis could obviously come out for Gary Barnage if he is injured and does not play. On Ignaz's side of the ball, Giovanni Bernard is currently starting. Other than that, they're unchanged, and they will need a kicker at some point, unless they want a danger play without a kicker. And Steven Gostkowski is on a bye. Thoughts on this game? And keep the bye to a minimum, please.
Well, Icnan had decided to do a danger play last week, and it cost them the win. So I don't think they'll be leaving Gostkowski to play that game. This is a really tasty match and a really important one for both teams. Divisional game, and the projections are really, really close. I mean, very, very tough here. Icnan has some great players. At running back, they could take that risk with Foster coming in, but he's going to be 50-50, and Alfred Blue's hot at the moment. So might not risk him as much, which seems to me why he's been benched. Mm-hmm. That being said, Jones is a bit of a fumbler, and we don't really know what's going on in that Washington backfield at this point. And sort of similar with Cincinnati and Giovanni Bernard. Wide receiver very strong. Thomas and Brown, excellent players. Bennett depends whether the offense gets going. Evans, again, great player. There's some holes in there, but I'd say it's the same sort of thing with the Tuckfards. There's some holes in my team. Tight end really, really struggling. Kicker, we went. Although Gold was a bit of a bust last week, but that's expected. But then again, some big players like Ingram and Peterson definitely doing well at running back, and Ty had a sort of a bounce back game last week. Joe Randall, got to tip my hat onto that guy because he had a great week last week and is clearly put himself as the number one running back in Dallas.
Has he really? Because if you look more into the numbers, I think he had, other than his long carries, he had something like 10 or 11 carries for about 4 yards.
I don't know, man. I'd like the NFL.com say he's clearly put himself as the lead back. So arguments to and from, but there are holes and there are good things for both teams. Again, really, really close. Very difficult to actually see who's a winner. But I'm not going to say.
Do I even need to ask you who you're picking?
Yeah, I'm going to roll with my team as per. But I wouldn't be disappointed to lose the Ignan because as we know they had a great draft and carried on their early season form.
Yeah, and as you're saying, this is a really juicy matchup, but for a different reason other than the matchup itself. I mean, you look at this last week, one team's 2-0, the other team's 0-2. Next week, we could both be talking about both these teams being at 2-2, right? Which they're a complete. Your team was dead in the water for the first 2 weeks, or it kind of looked incredible. You're both sitting at 2-2, and it's just like, how has that happened?
Absolutely.
But yeah, looking at the matchups, I mean, you've got a few tough ones: Ryan against Houston, Peterson against Denver. But then you've got some nice ones: Ingram against Dallas, Jones against San Francisco. Though Jones is a bit of a hard one to predict. Hilton against Jacksonville's good too, as is Randall against New Orleans. Then on the other side of the ball, it's kind of more of the same. Cam Newton against the soft Tampa Bay defense, Matt Jones against the soft Philly defense, Thomas against the soft Minnesota defense, softish. Then you've got Antonio Brown against Baltimore, who have not been good on defense, and guys like Martinez Bennett against Oakland. And then you've got some tough ones too. Bernard against Kansas City. And Mike Evans against Carolina. Josh Norman, their corner, has shut down opposing starting receivers. But who am I going to pick? I think I'll go with Ignan. I'd like to actually see your team to win this one, and again, I agree, it could definitely be a close one. But until further notice, Ignan are the best team in the league. I think it's fair to say. We're not shocked if they go win here. Okay, we'll get to our last game now, wrap up the show. Another Winchester Division battle. Gridiron Gang against the Homosexuals, the only teams to ever tie a game in the LOC. Both 2-1, both coming on from a win last week. Projections currently have the Homosexuals winning this one 122-100. Lineup changes here. Derek Carr comes in as starting quarterback for Gridiron Gang as Tom Brady is on a bye. Steve Johnson coming in at the flex for Shane Vereen, who they recently traded for wide receiver. On the other side of the ball, the Homosexuals are currently unchanged, but if Watkins does not play, you would think they will swap him. Thoughts about this game?
Well, can people stop the Homosexuals? They've had a really good 3 weeks.
One team did.
Can they keep? Sorry, it's more. Can they? Will their run keep going? To be honest, they've got some injury problems with Sammy Watkins, Brandon Cooks, and Tony Romo out, but they've responded well. Gridiron Gang, there's some tough matchups there. There's some easy ones. Derek Carr should be a good game for Chicago, but they got just as much. They got Golden Tate at Seattle, which is never good. never good matchup. This one's finally poised, and Gridiron Gang could make a strong claim for this game. They need a lot of things to go their way though. They need sort of the Larry Fitzgerald White, the hot streak to end.
Absolutely.
But I think the Homosexuals are going to win this one, just because of the strength and depth there, more strength and depth, and I think the Gridiron Gang have a few tough matchups here.
Yep, agreed. I'm going to pick my team. Once again, I think you were kind of alluding to it. It's another close game, and Homosexuals are definitely in form. But there's guys on their team where Flacco, he's inconsistent. Hyde hasn't been good the last 2 weeks. Fitzgerald, as you said, has just been on fire, but he's facing a tougher defense this week.
Yeah.
Beckham's also facing a tough defense. Kelsey's also not facing a slouch in Cincinnati too, so he's got some tough matchups, but he's definitely where the Homosexuals win is they've got the strong players, whereas Gridiron Gang, they're not quite as strong. Obviously, without Tom Brady, Lamar Miller hasn't really got going yet. Golden Tate, he's the number 2 option in that offense. He's going to get some work, but you never expect him to really kind of explode. Steve Johnson's probably more of the same. But I'm still going to go with my team. I usually go with my
No
team,
bias
so-
at all.
No bias. Confidence.
That's what I do. That's what I get every week, mate.
All right then, that wraps up this week's games. A long podcast today, but that's because there's lots of injuries and transactions and stuff. So if you're going to the Wembley game, enjoy that. It's the early kickoff, so football from 9 a.m. right through until about 5 a.m. this Sunday. So you're an absolute warrior if you watch all of that. Thank you for joining me, Coach Merritt. Always good to have you on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank
and
you.
I think I should remind everyone to, I think, as you were alluding to, their early games. So make sure you get your teams in early.
Absolutely. Thursday night game today as well. So make sure you get you guys set for that. I don't think there's any injury things in that game though. So yep. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week. Hopefully back to our normal day of Wednesday. Thanks.
Okay.
Goodbye.
See you later.